Good morning, Columbus. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's daily dose of digital Torah inspiration, special Lag BaOmer edition here at Sinai Studios, Judaism Today. Tonight is Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, and it's a festive Jewish holiday for across the world. Jews celebrate the cease in the morning of the students of Rabbi Akiva, and they build bonfires, and it's such a special holiday. And there's one very important feature of this holiday, which is it's the yahrzeit of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. It's the date of the passing, the anniversary of the passing of the Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rav Shimon Bar Yochai was most famously known as the author of the Zohar, the chief work of Jewish mysticism. As such, Lag BaOmer is a holiday that celebrates mysticism associated with the day itself, Hod Shabbat. But I would like to unpack that word for a second, this word mysticism, because it always made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like, what does the word mystical mean? It sounds like magical. It sounds like, these things that we don't understand. It seems like heebie-jeebies. Like, what is mysticism? So I'd like to make the following suggestion. Mysticism is really, in my view, more accurately described as metaphysics. And all that means is something really simple, but also really important. What it means is that we realize that this world has a spiritual underpinning. And that in the same way that we could look at a blank wall and we could see the wall and know that there's wiring underneath the wall, even though we can't see it, but we know that if we flip a switch, it'll cause a light to turn on. Somewhere underneath the hiddenness of that wall, some sort of energy is happening that makes a light turn on. We recognize, and what mysticism teaches us about, is how that works in this world. And that when we stare at the physical world, we realize that we're not just looking at a collection of cells and atoms and, chemistry and physics, but rather there's a spiritual wiring which undergirds our entire existence. And that's not such a complicated concept, because we can all readily accept the metaphor of a wall with a wiring beneath it. So in a similar vein, we look at this world, but really there's a spiritual wiring beneath it. But it teaches us something really important. It reminds us that God intertwined some of his spirituality in this world, and that there are light switches in different places that we can turn on, and that God gave us through his Torah and through his mitzvahs the capacity to access that. And that this world is greater than just the facade that we see, but that there's incredible spiritual energy right beneath the surface. And the holiday of Lag BaOmer reminds us that we need to endeavor to access those, that we should strive to find those points of connection, the spiritual light switches, if you may, that can turn the spiritual light in our world and in the entire world on. Lag BaOmer reminds us that there's a deeper meaning to existence. Lag BaOmer reminds us that there's more than meets the eye in the world around us. We marvel at everything we see in creation, from the beauty of God's creation to the intricacy of God's creation, from the vastness of God's creation to the majesty of God's creation. Lag BaOmer reminds us to marvel at the depth and spiritual meaning which lurks and lies just beneath the surface. Have a great Lag BaOmer. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Judaism Today. If you did, please make sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, or check into our podcast wherever podcasts are listened to, and we look forward to hearing from you more.